We're broadcasting live from Seattle, and it's a small world after all. We're all in this together. Today, I'm going to be having a conversation with Tracy Klinkroth, and our focus is going to be about being a female leader in our community and around the globe. She's slated to be a speaker and a panelist for the Women's EmPOWERment Summit, June the 10th, and we'll be reviewing a little bit about what she's going to be covering during that day. But first, I'd like to just say welcome, Tracy. It's great to have you here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce you more formally. Tracy is a serial entrepreneur who founded several companies in market research and event spaces. And the first was Epiphany Research, which she founded in 1999, providing B2B research. And then she followed that up with ChickChat, which was founded in 2004 and is a spin-off of addressing female consumers market. And then came Epiphany Events, where she creates eclectic and memorable events and parties, which she founded in 2007. And for those of you who might be asking yourself, how can one woman do so much? Think of Oprah. No one wonders about why Oprah does so much, do they? And I can totally relate because I got the call to duty to serve and empower women in 1997, and I can't seem to put it down. So no matter how many hats that journey has made me, wear over the years, and I'm sure you too, Tracy, I just keep wearing it anyway. So thank you so much for having some time for us here today.
Of course, it's one of my favorite things to talk about is women and girls, empowerment and equality. So we are kindred spirits with regards to that.
Yes, we certainly are. And we also ask questions of women all the time, and so one that I ask is, do you feel empowered in all areas of your life? And mostly, if women are honest, they usually say no to that question. And studies reveal that women's experience of real power is really diminished, and that if they do have what they would consider as power, it's often because they are able to influence their communities like you are doing. So I'd like for you to kind of share a little bit about your journey to become a woman leader in our community, the impact that you believe you're making, and the influence that you're having on the Seattle community and beyond, really. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I added another business in 2018 called The Power of She, right? Because I wasn't doing enough. So the word power, the word power that you said the question, I found interestingly enough is oftentimes an uncomfortable word for some, maybe many women to use to explain themselves, to describe themselves, sorry. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's often caught up in a lot of the way that masculine power is, and that can sometimes be construed as a negative in their eyes. So are we powerful or empowered in all aspects of our life? I can tell you 100% no, I am not. But because I have success, whatever that means to me, in one or two or three aspects of my life, I know that I can, if I work hard, get it perhaps in that area or areas of my life that I don't feel so empowered in. It was a big question, was how I kind of got into this.
Yeah, how did it start for you?
Well, it was people like you and quite honestly, a Melody Behringer doing a lot of things. I moved here in 95 and worked for an advertising agency for a few years and summarily quit. Just do my own thing. And it could have been partially because I was just looking for a group, to find your tribe, so to speak, your people. And I attended some other people's events, and it just kind of morphed organically. Because when you said in terms of my business is starting with Epiphany Research, and then I was getting called to do a lot of research with women. And I was like, maybe I should start this other firm called ChickChat. And then how I really got started was to just, that business was all about, or was going to be about, having a big online panel of women that I could tap into at any point in time for my clients to tell them what they thought about their
Right.
ad or their, tagline. And so I said, well, I need to be able to have these women to tap into. So that's why I started doing events. And I just started doing events about things that were really, really passion projects for me. And I realized that I was only getting 10 or 12 people at those, although they were the right 10 or 12 people.
Yeah.
But I really needed to, as you really want to influence the masses, right? And I wanted to bring more people into the panel. So I started doing a plethora of different kinds of events.
Yeah, and the power of she has a whole different influence that you're trying to impact.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about the power of she.
Thank you. Well, yeah, that started out in 2018 with every good intention to purchase for an entire year from women-owned businesses. The power of she is the tagline for ChickChat for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. And then I just really started getting more into reading about women's entrepreneurship, access or lack of access to VC funding. I started going to more events and talking to women who were female founders who were going after funding or who were just, started their own small business here locally. And so I thought it would be a good idea. Well, actually, I got the idea from a Black couple who in 2008, you might be familiar with it, they did our Black Year, where they bought only from Black-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was, very interesting, very difficult too. And nobody had done it with women. So I was going to be the one to do it. And it was very hard. And I didn't do enough research to be able to do it for a year. But it was really interesting, just doing it even for a couple of months.
Well, I think you influenced a lot of women to take the same step. And I, of course, had been doing some of that myself. When I walk into a store, even if it's to buy a car, I look for the female in the group to walk to and so on and so forth. And that's been something I've done for years, but it is still really hard, as you found out, to give the women business. So what else did you discover along the way in producing events and working with a lot of businesses? I mean, sometimes you'd have hundreds and hundreds of people attend the events, but then you'd also have dozens and dozens of women businesses who wanted to participate as vendors and suppliers for your events.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I've learned a lot. Life is the best education there is, right? And I don't really I'm probably similar to you in that I don't consider failures to be failures. It's just a way to try again, right? And see what works. I found that women have so much on our plates with regards to, it could be, owning a business, working, family, partnership, just everything that's going on in the world, that I really needed to have a mixture of just fun, positive events like you're doing, and sometimes I had really deep, not so fun topics to talk about. And I thought it was really important as a brand to really be able to have all of that. And then you could, as an attendee, poke your head in at whatever, spoke to you. I think that because it can be difficult to find women-owned brands, particularly more so at the supermarket. I mean, I think if we really search it out, like you say, if you're buying a car or if you need an accountant or a realtor, social media is a great place, right, to ask for referrals for that. But in terms of vendors and women wanting to promote their businesses, I mean, it's great practice for them. It's great. I think it's all about who you know, right? So over the years, I think one of the fondest events was Women of Libations, because women like to get their wine on. I think I had over 100 women at that. But some of the most meaningful ones were ones that I probably didn't have as many attendees, but it was really deep, meaningful topics that we were talking about.
Yeah, and I know that you've gotten into the wage gap and the gender gaps that exist here for women, and of course, women of color. It's even worse in their situation. Share a little bit about how you've selected speakers or content that specifically addresses that area.
For the past couple of years, not so much in 2019, but 2017, 2018, I was doing Power She, and we're doing a lot of female founder panels,
Hmm.
and worked very hard to get a diverse group of female founders, which sometimes can be difficult in Seattle. But each one was encouraged to share their founder story, and these live events. And each one was as similar and as different from each person. And sharing really honestly their struggles about financing their business, streamlining and growing their business financially. And it was really interesting to hear that sometimes people did bootstrap, sometimes people did go for VC funding, sometimes people put it on their credit cards, sometimes people had a partner. So just learning all their different stories. And again, a lot of access is who you know and who's in your community and who you can reach out to, or who you're willing to pick up the phone and make a cold call to, right? But
Yeah, exactly. Well, I applaud your effort to bring the community of women together. So, turning our attention to what empowerment really means, I think that we might have different views or opinions about that. So, I like this one definition that I found years ago, and it goes like this. So, empowerment is about change, choice, and power. And it is the process of change by which individuals or groups with little or no power gain that power and make choices that affect their lives. That came out of Cheston and Kuhn years ago, and it's still something that resonates with me today. Given the situation that we're in today, not just with COVID, but just in general with what's going on with violence, looting, and things like that going on, but also the justice and the injustices that we are seeing, how do you define empowerment right now for yourself?
for myself personally, I feel empowered when I can use my voice and my platform to bring meaningful issues to light, and to be able to hopefully share a voice in a respectful manner for those that are not always being heard. Um, Power and feeling empowered for me is when I can help others. That might not be everybody's definition of that, but for me personally, I feel more powerful when I can do that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what the studies show is that when women can influence their community, that's when they define that they have the sense of power.
Mm-hmm.
So, how would you like to continue down the road, given that we're in the midst of a pandemic? We're
Mm-hmm.
still not out of the woods, and obviously your live events, which was your bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
How do you intend on living into the future with what you were doing?
Well, luckily, I've had two streams of revenue for most of my entrepreneurial life. Well, at least since starting ChickChat, which I guess you reminded me of, was in 2004. And I think that's really important for us as entrepreneurs to have multiple streams, right? I had been doing much more events, live events, than market research, but as luck would have it, I am working on some pretty big research projects now that are on hold but will come again. So I'm going to be focusing a bit more on ChickChat, the research side of it, rather than the live event side of it, because none of us really know when we can get back out to do live events, let alone when people are going to feel comfortable enough. And I don't know if I applaud you in terms of doing the virtual events. I mean, that's a lot to take
Thank
on.
you.
It's a lot to just the people and places and everybody that you have to interview, but also the technology of it, and making it entertaining and visually entertaining so that people want to participate, right? So kudos to you.
Thank
I don't want to do that. So the research side of it, because I know that consumers, people's consumer behaviors and purchases have already changed, right?
Right.
And I think they're going to continue to change. And now I think it is a time when companies need market research more than ever. We'll see whether or not they agree with that. So I'm going to be leaning more into that. But I'm also, I hate this word pivot because it's putting a lot of stress on me. I'm putting my own stress on me. I don't know if you are, but how are you pivoting your business and how are you staying, right? And I have ideas that, but they all require a lot of in-person stuff, like the whole RV tour that I still want to do with the Power of She. And I want to incorporate teaching entrepreneurial mindset boot camps to high school girls.
Oh, fantastic.
So when you talk about
I'm so proud of you as a woman who's been watching and been an attendee and following what you're doing. Of course, I started my journey to empower women back in the 90s as well. And I set down that role back in 2011. And I spent the last number of years just garnering more and more and more information about how I could do things better and move things forward for women. I didn't realize that a pandemic was going to be the motivation to really move it forward in the virtual space. And so I'm really excited to be providing the Women's Empowerment Summit using technology to our advantage for sure. And I cannot wait to have you as a part of the Global Women Leaders panel. And I look forward to getting in touch with you about that next. So how can people get a hold of you around your ChickChat, which is the moment that you're currently operating from, and in general, LinkedIn or?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I would love women to sign up as opinionistas. There's no cost to do that. That's essentially you go to chickchat.net, ChickChat.net. You click on the Opinionista panel and you basically give me some very typical demographic feedback so that then you're part of our panel. And when we do have research projects, we'll reach out to you and get you paid for sharing your opinions, which we all have opinions, but to get paid for them is a whole nother thing. So that's one way. If anybody has any questions, they can always reach me at tracy@chickchat.net, TRACY. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Tracy Klinkroth. Instagram, it's _Power of She.
Wonderful. Well, it's been so wonderful to have you, and I can't wait to see you at the panel.
I know.
On June the 10th.
Well, seeing you. I wish I could see you in person and give you a hug, but that
Our virtual hug is going to be there for sure. For sure. So if you haven't registered for the Women's Empowerment Summit for June the 10th, go to women'sempowermentmarketplace.com. You can also get on our mailing list, which is easy as well, by texting the word women to 555-888. It's a short number. That's 555-888. And just simply type in the comment section the word women. I'm Bettina Carey for It's a Small World After All. We're all in this together. Thank you, Tracy, for coming today. Bye for now, everybody.